CTV News at 6 with Joe Perkins.
Good evening. Glad you could join us tonight. People across the country and on Vancouver Island stopped what they were doing and fell silent for 2 minutes this morning. They paused to pay their respects and reflect on the sacrifices of so many men and women who fought and died for our freedom. Our coverage of Remembrance Day tonight begins in Victoria. Buried in a sea of thousands, a family doing their part.
Well, we're here to remember.
It's their third November 11th at Victoria's Cenotaph, a small family outing to remember a great-grandfather they never knew.
We try to tell stories about the seriousness of it and what it does to people when they come home.
Stories about sacrifice, tales so many here are familiar with. Like Silver Cross mother Sheila Fines, whose son Stuart took his own life, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after serving in Afghanistan.
It's a difficult day. It's a difficult day for everyone, but I think it's an important day, and I'm just so pleased that I get to come and do this.
Today, she lays a wreath for all mothers, one of many to remember those who gave our freedom the ultimate gift.
We live in heaven. This is the best country in the world. That's what they got to remember.
And they do in silence. Canadians from across the country.
It's one of the great cities in the country to really pay tribute to the troops because there's such a strong tradition here and such a strong support for veterans.
Each with a connection.
My grandfather was in the war, and like many people of that generation, we didn't ever talk about it. We didn't hear the stories until he passed on.
It's why today they salute. From and to those who wear a uniform. Bonded together by a Canadian flag, a symbol of a strong and free country built on sacrifices of so many. It's why we never forget.
It's just really important. Don't forget them, ever.
We're here this morning to honor Commander Rowland Bourke, a Canadian hero.
Back in Saanich this morning, Naval reservists with the HMCS Malahat honored First World War hero Commander Rowland Bourke at his grave at the Royal Oak Burial Park. Bourke, an apple farmer from Nelson, joined the Royal Navy as a volunteer in 1919 after being rejected by the Canadian military 3 times for having poor eyesight. Bourke was awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest award in the Commonwealth countries, for his courage and valor under German fire during the First World War. Then in 1932, Bourke moved to Victoria and began working at HMC Dockyard in Esquimalt. He also volunteered during the Second World War with the first HMCS Malahat and was instrumental in forming the Gumboot Navy of fishermen who patrolled the BC coast.
Canada has always had a very small standing army, and in every major conflicts, everyday citizens have come to the call and have traditionally had very important roles as citizen sailors as they come to the conflict, do their duty for their country, and then willingly go back to civilian life afterwards. And that was certainly the case in this man's history.
Bourke died in 1958 and was buried with full military honors. Local historian, retired Master Warrant Officer Bart Armstrong stumbled across Bourke's story in 2008. He then notified the HMCS Malahat. Plans are now in the works for a new gravestone for Commander Bourke that will be at the Royal Oak Burial Park. Well, most of Canada was fast asleep when the men and women on board HMCS Regina paused from their deployment in the Arabian Sea to remember those who have paid the ultimate price. During the Remembrance Day ceremony, the crew committed the ashes of Chief Petty Officer Robert Williams to sea. He was the last known survivor of the sinking, during the sinking, I should say, of the first HMCS Regina. That was on August 8th of 1944. The HMCS Regina's home port is CFB Esquimalt. And we will have more from our Remembrance Day coverage coming up a bit later, but now to some other news. Charges have been laid in connection to a fight in Esquimalt that left one person dead and sent another man to hospital. Daryle Wayne Johnson is facing charges of second degree in the death of Clifford Antonsen and aggravated assault of Antonsen's brother, Lyle. Victoria police say they were called to an apartment on Grenville Avenue Friday night and found the 57-year-old man unresponsive. Lyle Antonsen has since been treated and released from hospital. Daryle Johnson is being held in custody and is scheduled to appear in court for a bail hearing Tuesday morning. Victoria police have another man in custody after a late-night joyride in a stolen front-end loader. Police say a man swam across the gorge last night to gain access to the Budget Steel compound in Rock Bay. Once inside, the suspect got behind the wheel of a front-end loader. A security guard tried to stop the suspect but was forced to jump clear when the loader started moving. Investigators say the suspect then ran the loader over a motorcycle while escaping the compound. He didn't get far though. 2 blocks down the road, police eventually intercepted the man. He fled but was eventually tracked down by the K-9 unit. Investigators are still determining what charges are appropriate. Okay, time for a look at weather. The snow is now falling. Parts of Campbell River, Port Alberni and Nanaimo all saw flakes today. Mount Washington beginning to look a little like a winter wonderland. Still time for more snow before the lifts start turning on December the 7th. Roads were also slick today. Sutton Pass has quite a bit of snow sticking. Gold River Highway was clear for most of the day, and the flakes began coming down at the Port Alberni summit late this morning.